All right, just still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation this morning on the review of the 2024 UTME, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Abdusalam Jabril.
On April 29, 2024, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, released the results of the University Matriculation Examination. The results showed that 76% of the candidates who sat for the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME) scored below 200. A breakdown of the results revealed that 1,989,668 candidates registered for the examinations held in 118 towns in 774 computer-based test centers (CBT) across the country, including the Federal Capital Territory. Only 1,842,464 of the candidates had their results released, with 8,401 candidates scoring 300 and above, 77,070 scored 250 and above, 439,974 scored 200 and above, while 1,402,490 scored below 200. Recall that the UTME is usually based on 4 subject combinations, with each subject marked over a score of 100. Though students are at liberty to choose their subject combinations in line with a choice of course of study, the use of English is compulsory for all students who wish to be admitted into the country's tertiary education system. Many across the country, such as parents, educators, and other stakeholders, have continued to bemoan the high rate of failures, driving conversations on what could be the possible causes of the mass failure reported this year. They highlight issues such as social media addiction and fraud to be among the contributory factors that led to the mass failure. They also pointed out that the failure of all the tiers of government to adequately invest in education continues to contribute to mass failures in examinations and poor academic performances. Most states do not have sufficient teachers, school buildings are dilapidated, and lack basic learning amenities. They insist that JAMB itself cannot be absolved of blame due to the multiple reports of technical glitches during the examination. Failed verification, epileptic power supply, poor internet connection, and poor service delivery by some operators of computer-based centers have also been attributed to JAMB. What actually went wrong during the exams, and how can it be reversed in future examinations? Guest on the program will be reviewing the 2024 UTME shortly.
Well, thank you, Abdusalam Jabril, for that background out there. And to discuss the issue, I have here in the studio, we're discussing the issue or review of the 2024 UTME. Let me introduce here in the studio Professor Ishak Oloyede, is the Registrar CEO, Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning, sir.
Thank you very much. Particularly, I didn't see you. That's an addition you gave me.
All right. Thank you, sir. Also in Abuja studio, we have the honor of having Chief Sylvester Onoja, OON, former principal, King's College, Lagos, former Commissioner for Education, and former Chairman, Teaching Service Commission, Kogi State. You're welcome to the program, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And now joining us via Zoom for the conversation all the way from Oyo State is Professor Adenike Temitayo Oladiji, the Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Technology, Akure. Many thanks for joining us, Prof.
Thank you. Good morning. Pleasure being here this morning.
Thank you. Now let's kickstart our conversation with Professor Ishak Oloyede. Well, a lot of people are of the view that the failure ratio this year is colossal. It's scandalous. And you seem to have a contrary view to this. Can you let us have your thoughts and why your view is contrary?
Yes, thank you very much. You see, it's a paradox that in Nigeria, when something is at the lower stage that you need to curb it, you don't curb it. You appear not to have cared, to bother about it. But when the thing appears to be maybe dying off, you now make the largest noise. I can say it clearly that the result this year is the best in the last 3 years, and definitely one of the best in the last 20 years. I'm in position to tell you. It shows clearly that Nigerians are not interested in education. If they are interested in education, they will be able to analyze carefully whatever they have about education. It means that we have not been talking to them at all when we pretend to, or we think we are communicating. Because I was shocked when people were saying what they were saying. But it shows me clearly that what we were taught in the class, in education assessment class, is correct. That it is the teacher that determines, it is the school that determines the parents' perspective of the report on education. What happened this year that shocked people was that for the first time, we gave you cumulative. What we have been giving over the years that made many people unconscious and we didn't know was that we would say those who score between 150 and 200, the figure. 200 and 250, we give you the figure. 250 and 300, we give you the figure separately. That's what is called belt report. We are giving you the belt, issue of the belt. But this year, we decided to say, okay, 300 and above, this is the figure, which was better than the previous years. This 250 and 300, this is the figure. But we now say 250 and above, adding 300 with 250. Then we went as far as 200. That was what made the whole Nigeria now realize that, oh, but definitely it didn't start now. It started in 2013, it was 10%. Go and see the publication. Those who scored 200 and above in 2013 was 10%. And there was no noise because it didn't come to your consciousness that was what we were saying. I want to tell you, but again, when you talk about past failure, the UTME has no pass or failed, because when you are talking of pass or fail, you talk about what qualifies the candidate to be admitted. You want to recruit 1,000 policemen. You say they must have first degree. It is the first degree that qualifies them. But because you want to recruit 1,000 and there are 10,000, you now set a quiz for them and say the first 1,000 will be taken. The pass mark or fail mark does not come. It's the first 1,000 you are interested in. Take note, I said quiz. The examination we are using for UTME is just for 20 minutes. You have forgotten that for a candidate to have a credit, for instance, in biology, he must have taken, or chemistry or physics, to say he has credit, O level, he must have taken examination paper 1, paper 2, practical, and you had continuous assessment of SS1, SS2, all together before you can find an average. That's what is called an achievement test that you can bank, that you can certify. But if somebody comes here now and he says, oh, those of you in NTA, 6 of you are here now, I need 3 of you. Okay, who is the governor of a state in US? Anybody who knows it, then those who know it, write it down. Those who know it, they go. Will you now say that means that the others are dummy because they couldn't get it? The point is that in assessment, in educational assessment, the purpose of the examination determines the type of question. That's why when some people are talking about banking results, at times I laugh. What are you going to bank? Are you going to bank 25%? Of the thing, or what are you going to bank? The issue is that Nigerian community appears not to be interested in education. So all the information we have been giving them in the last 20 years did not sink. So they were only conscious of it now. Last year, those who scored 200 and above were 24%. Just 24%. This year 24, last year 23. Year before less than that. And I told you in 2010 and 2013 it was 10.4%. So it has been so. The result this year is the best in terms of performance. But the way we decided to report it to you now gained your consciousness. And that's why when you were in secondary school, in primary school, nobody talks about your percentage. They say first position, second position, third position, fourth position, because they are ranking the candidates and they want you to know how the candidate stands in the class among his colleagues. That's why. But when you go to secondary school and you are taking different subjects, then they come to, this is the percentage, you pass or you fail, or that one comes. There are countries in the world that they don't take any examination until they get to age 18. They promote them by age, by biological age in the world, and they are doing well in education. So what I get from this is that, yes, it's good. Yes, let's improve whatever we need to improve. But if we need to cry, the cry should not start today. It ought to have started when it ought to start. So what I'm saying, it's not that I'm saying this is the best we can have. No. But what I'm saying is that I'm shocked that we have not been talking to the community. Because if you are saying, the result this year is bad, where? Go and check all your records and see. It's the best in the last 3 years.
Professor Isaac,
Yes.
if you say this is the best in terms of performance, what about in terms of conduct? The cases of exam malpractice that you have this year, we hear that there was a case of a father writing for a son. And then we know that some centers are being investigated with about 57,000 candidates. So speak to us about that.
Yes, thank you. I must say that those of us who are charged with the responsibility of looking at one aspect of the place, once you have confidence in us, unless you have reasons to doubt our integrity, I believe that the public should trust in us. And unless we prove not to be worthy of it, I can tell you, yes, this year, examination malpractice, court, I use the word court. I'm not saying that we caught all of them, but we try our best. Is the lowest in recent times. When we announced, we said there were 79, and some are under investigation. As at yesterday evening, they became 92, because as we are investigating them and we are looking at issues, we are getting more. We are analyzing what happened. Some people are analyzing the video clips of what happened. Some people sneaked, somebody else did the biometric, and somebody else came in for the exam. So all those things, they may not see all of them. All this now we are now doing, and the number is increasing. 2 or 3 of the results we have released, we are going to withdraw on the basis of what we have discovered. But I can tell you, impersonation is the greatest thing. You are talking of this unfortunate man who allowed himself to be used by emotion, because all his excuses will not. You want to help your child because you are good in maths, and you want the child to also be a mathematician. Those are stupid, I'm sorry to say, excuses for going to. You have damaged the child. We just want, because of we do not want the child to be the focus, because yes, the child has done what is wrong, and I'm happy he's an adult himself, but the father, it shows that the father had not given proper upbringing. And many of our homes, many are like that, where the parents just preach one thing and they will do another thing. And that's why when we are talking about some of these things that these children do, they don't listen to what we say. They copy what we do. And that's why I believe that the situation. Then when you talk about 57,000 that are being examined, Yes, as at today, I think they have reduced to 56,977 because we are clearing those people that we feel, and we are discovering that we cannot make prima facie case against them. These are center-based infractions where some parents will have gone and connived with CBT owners prior to the exam, that I have this child during the exam, this is what we do. And we have people who are doing intelligence gathering for us. And when they give us information, after the examination, we just hold on. We now analyze all the reports we have. Unfortunately, people don't know that we have very sound intelligence gathering security agencies in this country. After the exam, they will give you reports. You analyze the report, and you now look at the thing, what has come to you, and you stay to. So there are centers. The only thing is that our medicine, our prescription, our solution is working. Last year, most of this infraction came from Abia State, and we took drastic action that some people even felt was. But this year, they are from Edo. Majority of them are from Edo State. And we are going to take drastic action. If you look at Anambra this year, you will know that the message got to them. The level of, yes, they are still the highest in terms of number of impersonation. Anambra remains the highest, but not at the level it was done before. So once Nigerians care less about sentiments and they apply the rule as they ought to be, we are amenable to.
What are the criteria, sir, for picking these CBT centers?
The CBT centers, they are. Let me put it this way: anybody who believes that he can contribute to the educational development of his community is encouraged to establish CBT centers, not only for our examination, but also for digital training of the community. And we encourage it. The CBT center, anybody who establishes it will apply to JAMB for purpose of accreditation. In each state, we have a vice chancellor, a rector, or a provost who is designated as chief external examiner for that state. And in that state, we also have a director of ITC in any of the university in the state or polytechnic that is designated chief technical advisor. Okay. With my own JAMB director in the state, and with representative of the Computer Professionals Association of Nigeria, and with the security agents, we formed them, 7 of them. They will come together and they go and inspect and examine, and they recommend to us. If any of the 7 do not agree that the center is good, we will not accredit. Of these 700 plus centers, JAMB owned by JAMB, the one owned by JAMB, about 30 of them. The one owned by the federal government, maybe about 70, federal government agencies. The one owned by state government, maybe about 120. About 500 of these centers are privately owned. Right. And that's where the problems come from majorly. Okay. Except recently that we now see some, unfortunately, some even federal university, 1 or 2 of them being involved because of poor personality that they engage. All right,
Prof, you have pointed fingers at students, parents, CBT centers who have done one thing or the other that falls short of the standard of JAMB. What about JAMB? How would you rate the examination body in this particular examination? Because we have heard so many complaints about, the misconduct of JAMB itself. So speak to us about how you think you fared this year.
Many people, I want to, with all humility, I do not have any reason to praise JAMB if we are not doing well. To me, if I am to score JAMB over 100, I will score JAMB 90%. 90 comfortably, without any doubt, any iota of anybody asking questions. We know what we do. But that notwithstanding, we do what we need to do. If you know how many of our staff had been disengaged, had been dismissed, everybody knows that once you cross the line, you are gone. So we don't play with integrity when it comes to jump stuff. Look, there are so many things that people say that, look, recently somebody was saying, I didn't do jump. They send result to me. We are just joking because we know he's a jester. You see, but only people, I don't see anybody believing such person, because what they are just doing, it was what somebody did 2 years ago, and that person even went further to sue JAMB for 1 billion naira for giving 2 results. But when we showed him what he did, he started apologizing. He had to withdraw the case. He started begging us. These are jesters. We can assure you that what JAMB does, I can tell you, is the best that can be afforded by this country, and what we do is world class.
Okay.
And anybody who has a different opinion is free to challenge us to come and test any of our deeds. This is not the first time. You know, many allegations have been made, and I must thank unbiased empires like the National Assembly. At times you will see like one that came up some time ago, and the National Assembly, without even hearing us, supported the person and said this should be done, that should be. But when they were shown the fact, you knew what happened. Government, the same assembly came to say, oh, we have gone into it. There was nothing. Rather, they were full of praise for us.
Okay,
and
praises for
many countries in Africa come to copy. Recently, we have more than 2 or 3 from other parts, one from even outside Africa, coming to understudy what we do here. We don't want to praise ourselves,
okay,
but we want to tell you that it's because we are JAMB Nigeria that you don't know what we are. We are JAMB International.
You are JAMB International. Thank you very much, sir. But before we leave you, I just wanted to clarify the fact that, you said that some results are still under investigation. So what is the state of such?
Yes, yesterday we released additional 531.
Yeah.
531 candidates. We have painstakingly. The exam has not finished as well as JAMB is concerned.
Okay.
We look at every candidate with the seriousness it deserves, and we say, oh, this one can go because of A, B. If we are in doubt, we allow the candidate to have the benefit of the doubt. So we look at every candidate, and we are coming up to say this one, and the figures have changed. Even the 24% that people are talking, you are talking about as at the time we released. Okay. Yesterday, when we added 531, we recalculated, and the thing is even coming down.
So is it possible, like being claimed by one online publication, for somebody who did not take part in the examination to have a result?
My brother, it's a joke. The joke of the year. You will see more of such jokes, and they are comic.
Really? All right,
comic display of ignorance.
All right, Prof. We'll have to pause you here. Let's quickly get to Professor Adenike Oladiji, the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Technology. You have listened to Professor Isaac already talk about the performance this year. We want to find out what your view is about, the performance of candidates for this particular examination. And then I want you to also speak to the fact that Professor Isaac has said that JAMB is the standard examination body, if you like, international. Why do universities still go ahead to conduct post-UTME after a standard examination body is done examining candidates? Prof.
Thank you, good morning once again. Let me thank you for the invite. Listening to Professor Ishaq Oloyede, see, I've been smiling here because some of the things that he have been working first as JAMB supervisor since 1996. Yes, 1996, and again I worked at the headquarters with them during examinations before I became external examiner for. I must say that the conduct of the exam keeps improving. Some of the things that we hear are quite laughable. Like some people say that the performance is not good because of internet connections. And I said, JAMB exam does not run on internet. People just assume a lot of things and they make comments based on uninformed things that they are based on information that is not correct. The volume of effort that goes into the accreditation of the exams is huge. I've been part of it before, and like you said, a lot of uh, the centers go through rigorous accreditation process. All centers must have power backup, so it's not a function of because there is power in exams. Most of the comments are actually not true. They are comments that come from people who do not actually participate in the exam. Does not mean that there is no room for improvement. Things can get better, but on the performance, like you said, for those of us that are active in the education sector, I can say that the performance is not different. It's not worse than it can be better, but it's not like it's worse than it was before. And I think that the time that we should start looking at things even from the end. We cry in Nigeria when the things are done at the end of the event, but we don't look at it from the beginning. Do we look at the primary schools and then the secondary schools before we even talk about the JAMB exams and then with universities? I think the conduct. I went around some of the centers, and I can say that the quality of the exams keeps increasing. You talked about universities still conducting post-UTME. I can confirm that at the Federal University of Technology, Akure, where I serve as VC, in the last 2 years, we have not conducted post-UTME because we have confidence in the quality of the examination, and we do not hope to conduct post-UTME this year also because we are part of the exam, and we also have a CPT center on our campus. In fact, we have two. And we put in a lot of efforts to ensure that things are done correctly.
Okay, thank you, Professor Oladiji, for your contribution there. I want to come down back to the studio now, and let's speak to Chief Onoja. One time you were the principal of King's College, Lagos, and former Commissioner for Education and Chairman Teaching Service Commission. Now let's look at what was the performance in the past when you were the principal of King's College. Can you just give us a throwback of what the situation used to be preparing students for JAMB examination?
Well, thank you very much indeed. And of course, I want to congratulate Professor Loyede, an eminent professor of educational measurement. And I told him that, well, there's no way you can make failure look nice. All right? We don't have to glamorize and give another name. As a teacher and as principal of King's College, 50% is a pass mark, 50 over 100. All right? Later, we came in with Nigerians, the way we want to do. We said, okay, if you have 40, that's all right, and all that. So I'm familiar with educational measurements, interacting with people like him, and of course, two of his own predecessors were in the same studio with them and all that. The problem with education in Nigeria, and you're asking me to go back to King's College. King's College goes back way back to the 23rd of September 1909. Is the first government secondary school in Nigeria. And we've known for standards that King's College has set. And we know the history of education in this country, beginning from the CMS Grammar School, that was the first secondary school in Nigeria, going back to the 5th of June in 1869. And you go through that to the Methodist Boys High School in 1878, and the Methodist Girls High School in 1879, and the Baptist Academy, and all that. Quality education, ability, and education itself, you see the 3 R's. Ability to read, to write, and it's gradually going off, and we are taking them for granted. Prof has said that this is the best in 20 years. So education actually has been dying for the last 20 years with nobody taking any notice, and we are making it look nice. And the greatest problem of education in this country is politics. Politics. One day you will wake up one day and Prof will come to justify that 4 plus 4 is 9, given all the other things that are there. You see, we make things look nice. Unfortunately, we have to do something about education. Quality education brought us to where we are. Quality education brought him to where he is. We shouldn't make failure look nice. What has happened this year, according to what the Prof has said, is about the worst in 20 years. Where have we been in the last 20 years? We've been paying lip service to education for the last 20 years. Politics has taken over everything that we do in this country. When the unity schools were established in 1966 and thereabout, they were called Nigerian, they started. It was a search for quality. Then Yakubu Gowon came and increased the number to 12. It was search for quality. In this country today, you find there are not many, primary schools at that level that you can talk about quality. The first primary school in Nigeria was St. Andrews in Badagry in 1843. People left primary schools, secondary schools, they were able to read and write. We now have people who have left university, courtesy of JAMB and all that, who at the end of the day cannot read and write.
That's a big challenge.
So what is the problem? The problem is that education has been neglected for a long time. Our politicians, we don't care about education. Barely, that's all right. Education is not a priority, and we cannot make progress in this country until education becomes our number 1 priority, our number 2 priority, and our number 3 priority. We are running away from it. And the Vice Chancellor, I sympathize with people in academic at the level of universities. The quality of the students, the JAMB is passing over to them. I am happy I used to be a university teacher many years ago, but thank God it is no longer rewarding. Because I'm sure when they look at the scripts written by their students, they will look back. So what do we do to improve education? What has happened? We have over 1 million people who had less than 200 over 400. And we said it's excellent, it's good. Unfortunately, those who do not understand, and because the Prof knows what he's talking about, they go back to sleep. We are encouraging them to go back to sleep. How much this year's budget, the budget, money that was budgeted for education this year, how much was it? What percentage of our budget went into education? What percentage went in 10 years ago? What percentage in 20 years ago? We are not paying attention to education. We have to improve secondary education. Secondary education is the bedrock of tertiary education. Education has 3 legs: the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary. The tertiary, they also have regulatory bodies. The regulatory bodies for the primary and basic education is UBEC. The regulatory body for the tertiary has 3 legs. You have the NUC, you have the NBT, you have NCC. But secondary education is an orphan. Funding. Third fund funds tertiary education. UBEC funds primary basic education. Nobody is funding secondary education, and that's where the students who are coming to write JAM, they are coming from. That's their background. They have no money. The states don't care about education. And you said I was commissioner for education. I saw it firsthand. Education is not a priority in any of the state governments. They don't care. They really don't care. You go around the states and you see people who are commissioners for education, they have no business with administering learning and teaching. This country, since independence in 1960 to date, had produced 4 teachers who were ministers of education. 4. Beginning from Professor Babs Fafunwa in 1994, then Professor Imoge, then Professor Rokeat. And then came, briefly, I call him the injury time Minister of Education, Senator Sekarau, the former governor of Kano State. People who know should be in charge and lead the way. education, politics has taken so much of it. There is no learning and teaching at the level of secondary schools in the states. There are some states where you go and they talk about free education. I agree with them. But there are some states, the concept of free education is that the schools are free of education. No learning, no teaching. Those who come to do JAMB exams, there are schools where there are only 4 teachers in an entire senior secondary school.
Chief Onoja agreed that politics, is a main cause for the failure in the education standard. But some have also blamed it on parents, because they're supposed to be the first teachers, and irrespective of what government is doing, they can nurture their children, to take education seriously, as well as the teachers. How would you respond to that?
There's a level to which the parent goes. You went to university, you obtained a degree in character and learning. Your parents were part of that character. The character and learning. They come in. At the level, here are parents that are deprived in so many ways. Of course, the parents, in the community secondary schools that you see are doing well. The first community secondary school in Nigeria was Abeokuta Grammar School that was established in 1908. Abeokuta community established a community secondary school before government came in to establish King's College in 1909. That tells you. The Ijebode Grammar School was in 1913, Ibadan Grammar School was in 1913. So before amalgamation, communities were already building schools. I know the communities are where, it depended where you come from. But the issue is that government should take interest in education. They are not doing that. We were children of poor people, we went to primary school, went to secondary school. Our parents were there for us, the teachers were there for us. We had teachers who know. Today, how many teachers know? How many teachers are knowledgeable? The quality of the teacher training institution, and JAMB is here. In the last few years, you admitted about 1.4 million candidates, and only 54,000 opted to go to universities to study education of that number. So there people are not going in for education because the teacher is no longer an important member of the community. Nobody regards the teacher. Nobody. The teacher does not count. It all started during the Civil War in 1970. The teacher used to be an important person before 1970. Then the first set, before 1967, when the Civil War started, the first set of civil servants or workers who were not paid were teachers. In 1968, the teachers had no salary because the money that was realized, was used for the war effort. And the teachers started living in rooms. Teachers who were respected members of the community bought food on credit, they couldn't pay. And everybody discovered that the teacher was a poor man. And he has remained a poor man since 1968 to date. So, but the most important thing is that let us have, and I want to make this point, and I please pass it on. Secondary school, that is the basis, the foundation for tertiary institution education, is an orphan. We had a senior secondary education commission that was established. I hear from the grapevine that it is going to be scrapped. We have UBEC that funds basic education and TED fund that funds tertiary education. And the secondary education, there are 13,995 senior secondary schools in this country. A lot of them are in the private sector. The government ones don't have teachers. Teachers Registration Council has registered about 2.4 million. And I hear that there are about over 1.5 million teachers unemployed in this country. And people are teaching in schools. Who are those teaching there? The governments are appointing people they can afford to pay, not the ones that are
qualified.
But yes.
Many thanks, Chief Onoja. Let's pause you here. Prof, of course, you agree with some of the points already made by Chief Onoja as regards education system, but let's go back to JAMB examination, for this year. Statistics show that we had more female candidates register for this particular examination. And of course, there was a sharp increase too of persons with disabilities that wrote JAMB this year. What do you think is responsible for these improvements?
Yes, for female, male, female, we have seen it, it has been gradual. It used to be from southeastern part of Nigeria over the years. female higher than that we have been watching over the last 10 years, female slightly and even radically higher than male. Then by last year it went as far as Southwest, but now it's becoming national. This is the first time that we have more female than male. And yes, it's a good development, but it also has its own drawback. Because as we are having these brilliant girls coming up, they will end up in some homes. I hope these brilliant girls will not end up in the hands of men that are not worthy of such girls. That's why I think that as part of girl child education, promotion of girl child education, we should also promote boy education, because some of these girls will end up in the hands of the boys that are not trained. Educated. And at the end of the day, they will make nonsense of these brilliant girls. So I say, yes, it's a good thing. It's for gender parity, but also we must keep our eyes where things are going wrong, because some of the boys are not looking in the direction of education. And when we talk of education, we are talking about different things. When my brother and respected veteran school administrator spoke about only 4 people are in education, you know what he's talking about. That he's not talking about being educated. Many professors, many people have been minister for education. He's talking about people who specialize in education. That is those, and taking that, for me, it is out of respect for teacher education, out of respect for teachers. We don't want to present them in bad color. Otherwise, anybody who wants to study education, we have no business conducting UTME for them, because the vacancy available for them, those who apply, they are not up to. The demand is not up to supply. So, strictly speaking, those who want to study Agric, those who want to study education, even if they score 10 over 400, they should be admitted. And that will tell you that the ranking exam we are conducting has more to do with space rather than with the ability of the individuals. You want to put people and say, oh, we have space for education. Those who apply, where we have over 120,000 space for education, all those who apply this year, I would be surprised if they are up to 30,000. So if you take them, but at the end of the day, how we get people for them? That those who want to go for medicine, want to go for engineering, and they failed, and they have nothing else to do. They say, okay, we can take education. So that is how we now rake. And even then, we hardly have.
Is that a good way to go?
My friend, it's not a good way to go. But the reward system.
Yes.
The reward system shows clearly that we don't care about education. If somebody graduates today as a professor for more than 25 years, how much will my salary be? Definitely, just a bit, I will take a bit higher than 500,000. And it's just courtesy of this recent increase. It used to be 450,000. But a small boy who graduated 10 years ago and is working in CBN or NNPC, the allowance he will get is more than that. I know of a lady who worked for the same federal government and has a PhD before she gave birth to the boy. And the boy, he went to primary, secondary school. The woman is still working with the same federal government, and then graduated and became a medical doctor. Why the woman, the mother, with PhD before the boy was born, is still earning 300,000 as a teacher. The medical doctor's son is earning about 800,000. So the reward system is so skewed against the teachers. And we are all saying, no, it's okay, it's okay. We are damaging the system. I believe that federal government, in its wisdom, approved the teacher special salary scale for teachers in secondary school and primary schools. I think we should implement that as the beginning, to begin to give some some integrity, some confidence in the teachers. If we do not pay them properly, I'm not even talking about those of us who are the tertiary institution, those secondary and primary. Of course, a professor who hands 1/4 of what a permanent secretary hands, and even in retirement, they will tell you if you are a professor for 20 years, when you retire with your full salary. It's not true. It's not implemented. At the end of the day, you retire and you start looking for another thing to still do in retirement. The point I'm making is that government needs to pay attention to the issue of teachers. The reward system is so poor that you will find out that nobody. When I go on visiting these schools, I ask some of these people you are just coming, how many of you want to be doctors? How many of you want to be when you say how many of you want to be teachers? In fact, recently I had to give 2,000 to one out of about 500 who raised I want to be a teacher, and I said, oh, why would you want to be a teacher? And the boy told me frankly that I want to be a vice chancellor. Yeah, so right. You can see he wants to be a vice chancellor. That's why he wants to be a teacher. So you can see. So the point I'm making is that unless we are deceiving ourselves, we need to, and our state government, if we need to prostrate to them, we need to. To me, we are talking of state police. I'm not impressed because there is nothing we handed over to the state that survived. Go and look at them. The primary schools, public primary schools are almost dead. Primary health centers that you handed over to them, where is it now? Hand over the police too, you will see what they will become. Yes. So as far as I'm concerned, we need to look at what we are doing. I am not saying that we should not decentralize power. I'm not thinking, but let us be careful, particularly when we are talking about education, about security. The antecedents of what had been handed over to the state government that I know of will not recommend that we hand over police. If you ask for my opinion, I would say let's start with the civil defense. Let's now hand over the Nigerian civil defense to the state and see how they perform. If we see them destroying that, we will, because it will be too late for us if they destroy the Nigerian police before we now. It's not something emotional that you run into. Yes, anyway, yes.
When we are discussing the issue of state police, yes, maybe we'll invite you.
Oh, no, don't invite me. Don't invite me.
Now we are talking about education, and your point is well stated. Well, let's go to Professor Oladiji via Zoom now. We're still talking about this high rate of failure, the rate of failure, especially the impact on the university system. And one of the things that Prof said here is the issue of space as well. So how do universities cope with the demand for spaces? Okay.
I think part of coping strategy for universities is the post-UTME. Because in some cases, the post-UTME that you talked about is actually for ranking. You still want to see how you can sieve the volume, particularly if you have good, very high level of subscription. You want to be sure that you give the spaces available to those that are most qualified, or those you consider most qualified. But again, we have some programs, just like you said, that are undersubscribed. For those that have large schools of education, we at the Federal University of Technology, Accra, for example, we have a large school of agriculture. And we know that some of our programs are undersubscribed. So truly, we push people from other programs. But the truth is that when some students come in, having a taste of the program, some of them are quite comfortable studying the programs. I think one thing that we need to do more is to let people have an overview of some of our programs. I don't know at what level we need to take that up, because people actually are familiar with courses like law. If you study law, you become a lawyer. If you study medicine, you become a medical doctor. If you're an engineer, you're an engineer. But some of our programs, people don't know what they are and how they can come in and fit into the education, to the public sector, to the workspace. So we need to also do that more. And then, if I may say something again on the issue of females participating more at the UTME, I think it's a good thing that we are having some of these things. But something that comes to me that may be quite responsible for the rate of the boys dropping out, if I can use that word, or not actually being interested in education, is there's this slogan that suddenly pops up, that popped up a few months or maybe 1 year ago, and it's like people say school is a scam. And when they say school is a scam, I think the boys embrace it more, thinking that skills acquisition is the emphasis. While it is good to emphasize skills acquisition, I also think that we should give a balanced education. It's good to have skills, but it's good to also have education. If you can do the two together, it's better for you. If I give an example, if I have a fabric and I want to give it to a tailor, I want to give it to somebody who can communicate with me, not somebody that cannot communicate with me. I want to give it to somebody who is reasonable enough to know that if he gives me a call once and I don't pick it, it means that I'm busy, not somebody who doesn't understand the basics of life. So while we think that it's good to have skills, I think it's also good to have education, and there must be a balance in communicating these things to learners.
Get back to you, Chief Onoja. So much has been said about education, and you have, told us the main reason why the standard is falling. But I want you to speak to this new call that to qualify for tertiary education in this country, you must be 18 years and above. What's your take on this?
Well, that has to do with maturity, but that, of course, with 18 is the year that actually is at the level at which you are considered to be grown up. All right, so you go with your, matured mind and prepared for life. A tertiary institution is actually, you finished with the level of character at the level of secondary school. Nobody goes to university to develop character. The character is basic and secondary education, senior secondary education. You finish with character. Now, if you go to display there, the tertiary institutions will bear witness that you have demonstrated character. That's why they give you a degree on character and learning. Actually, they are looking at you have made a great character. But the basic thing I want to talk about, and I want to plead with the government of this country, to please save senior secondary education. If we get senior education, secondary education right, we will get tertiary education right. Today, at the state level, nobody is funding senior secondary education. The states don't care. And just like Prof said, anything you entrust the states with is as good as dead. Please, the Senior Secondary Education Commission should be allowed to stay. It is the only hope. It is the only hope for education in this country. If we do not have a funding agency for senior secondary education, then it's all finished. The Senior Secondary Education Commission was established first by Abubakar when he was head of state in 1999 on May 26. Then the president, our President Buhari, brought it back as the only way to save senior secondary education, just like TED Fund is developing tertiary education and UBEC, basic education. We must bring back, nothing should happen. There must be in existence a funding body for senior secondary education.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Okay, sir, we'll take a break now. We'll still come back to you so that you can speak more on this. Because funding of education, people have argued that cannot be the sole responsibility of government. Maybe some other private organizations, individuals can also come into funding of education. But you'll speak to that when we come back from this break. Stay with us.
I had some. No, sir.
Welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA, and we're still assessing at the 2024 UTME. Our guests are still very much with us, so we'd go over to Professor Oladiji, yes, professor who joins us from Oyo. Prof, you spoke earlier about the reason why you think that we have more female candidates in this exam, because the male candidates think that, well, school doesn't really pay, from what you've said, school na scam, like they usually say. But away from that now, I want you to speak to us about what the tertiary education is like these days. Because some comments have been made here about the fact that we have people who graduate and then they cannot express themselves. They can't speak just simple English. Some can't even spell their names correctly. Speak to us, really. Is there a falling standard in terms of tertiary education in this country? I'm not talking about your school now, in particular, across the country. Or you think that it's the students that are not meeting up to expectation?
Well, thank you very much. I would say it's both, really. Standard of education, if we will be honest, I would say I can't say that I would think that it's falling, and it's basically due to a lot of factors. One principal thing is that staff motivation is very poor. The Registrar of JAMB had spoken about what perception of people about teachers. And the same thing, when we say teachers, we just take it holistically because it's inclusive of university teachers and other staff in the university. People's morale is quite very low. And, with that, you can't actually bring out the best in the students. We also look at the issues of infrastructure. To a large extent, those of us in the university have been talking about infrastructural decay and infrastructural deficit in the Nigerian university system. More recently, the issue of power. Nobody seems to be thinking that this can actually kill our universities. For the universities that all universities require power, particularly for our science programs, engineering. All these people require electricity. If we cannot afford to sustain provision of power supply in the universities, then it means that our practicals will not run, our laboratories will not perform optimally, and then we will be talking about the ultimate quality of the degree that we want to bring out of the universities. I think people should take a second look, government should take a second look at the issue of power in the universities. But it's quite disheartening when you see students or graduates who people say cannot express themselves. I must be honest, I've not come across anybody who has gone through the rigors of the higher institutions of the university and cannot spell the names and cannot even speak. Well, we know that of a truth. We know that some people have issues of grammatical expression. If I'll be honest, may not be able to they may not be able to speak as fluently as others, but that they cannot spell their names. I'm finding it hard to believe that it happens, and I've not met anyone in that category. But I think we should also, anybody in that category. But again, we should be looking at the product that we get from the secondary school.
Okay. Well,
Unfortunately, the network. I wanted to ask Prof, about the issue of sorting.
Okay.
If she claims that, that there are students, it's not possible to have students from universities who cannot express themselves, then what about the issue of sorting that has become rampant in universities now, such that someone is a student in a particular school, never attends classes, never writes exams, but graduates with certificates. Yes. They call it sorting your way through school. Yes. But I'm sure the network will be restored back, and then we'll
but I can speak on our behalf.
Okay.
I can speak on our behalf. Okay. You see, at times we talk about the same thing, but giving different labels. She might be right, and you might also be right on what you see. Working closely with NYC, where some of these things come from, she is right, and you are right. Those people that you say sorting, you cannot use them to say standard of education had fallen, because sorting means they never went through the school. They bribed their way through. I am aware that within the university system, I can say today, within the university system, we have definitely more than 3,000 who are presently either serving or in final year that they were not qualified to be there in the first instance. They faked their papers. They were somebody who is a photographer, with due respect to photography, I'm not trying to denigrate. Somebody who is known not to, is just practicing some level of photography on the campus. And somebody helped to mobilize that person to the NYC. Fake certificate for the person. Then when you see the person with a certificate, you now say, oh, standard of which education? Or somebody who paid himself his way through. We are carrying out an investigation now about A level, those who come to 200 level, because they want to avoid UTME. The craze now is to go through what they call direct entry. Many of them fake diploma. We were not even looking at that before 2023. We believe that universities should scrutinize direct entry. But when BUK made Bayero University Kano raised an alarm that look, 85% of the certificate they sent for verification came back fake. And they now raised an alarm. We decided from 2023 to be looking at the direct entry. The outcome is seriously bad. So these people, we have a large number of them who did not have, from this year now, you hear noise, direct entry. What concerns you about direct entry, for God's sake? We run 6334. Where is the A level in the 6334? But all these people who want to cut corner, they have found out that that's the easiest way of avoiding UTME. And they will go for some fake diploma. They will go for one course or the other. And mind you, they are coming in at 200 level. And they will now pay bribe the lecturer, bribe everybody, and suddenly you find them at NYC and you meet them and say you are a graduate. Yes, you are right, because you claim to be a graduate. But yes, she is also right, because they were not graduates. So you are talking of the same thing. We need to look at the system that allows that. I know that many people are being investigated presently, that are either on NYC or final year, and we have been able to get to the root of what they are doing. And some people are with the security agencies now who had confessed to what they had done and that they were doing this for them. And these are people that they will now mobilize, and you now see them and you say it's a graduate, and you now say, oh, it's a... There was somebody recently who appeared for something in JAM with us, and we said, with this certificate you hold, we will hand you over to the police if you don't tell us the truth. And he confessed that he bought it. So the point is that there are so many people cutting corners. There are few of us who are bad eggs in the tertiary institutions too, where they will buy little things for, and they will then pass them through. But I did something when I was vice chancellor. A former minister of education is late now. Minister of State for Education. He had a school. Late Alhaji Saka Sadu. He was an educationist. He was Minister of State for Education. He had a secondary school in Abuja here. And he interviewed some people. And he found them not worthy of the certificate they were holding. Then he called me as Vice Chancellor. I said, look, these people are graduates of your university. I don't believe that I said, good, bring the certificate. And he brought the certificate. What did I do? I called for the papers, the scripts of the candidates from when they were admitted up to their graduation. And the three of them, we found out that they ought not to have graduated because somebody assisted them at the final year because he felt that, oh, they scored 40, I can change it to 50. He upgrade what they call upgrading and brought a wrong thing to Senate. Of course, we dealt firmly with that person. What I'm saying, the lesson for me is that take them, don't just talk generally. When you find such persons, let us look, let us investigate what really happened. You will see that standard in terms of what we have set. Because even when you say standard is falling, it means there is a standard. It means that this person is performing below standard. So it means the standard is not falling. The people are falling below the standards. Okay. So, and when people say standards are falling, I would say if there is no standard, you wouldn't have known where they ought to be. Okay. Where they ought to be is the standard. Okay. What you are saying is that they are falling below expectation. So if the standard is falling, they will be celebrated because the standard will be going down and they will be celebrated. Right. So the point I'm making is that in most cases, some of these people that we find not worthy of the certificate they hold, they got the certificate through illicit, through under the table means of obtaining the certificate. When you say
they get certificates through illicit means, yes. We already, you were going to speak to one publication that said some people did jam and they got results. They did not sit for the exam. So how do we begin to correct that? How do we, the issue of credibility and integrity of jam now, yes. Comes to question, because we have had issues like that. Like we had the last jam, this controversy over this lady that got the highest score.
So there are some people are still around. Yes. Every year comes with its own joke and jest.
So we are waiting.
This what you are hearing now. Somebody said what they are doing is simple. We deal with the telephone number of the candidate. If you write the UTME, you do not need to put your registration number. We deal with your telephone. It's like telephone banking, or what you call this your banking that you use your telephone for. So when the phone that is registered with us said result UTME, it will be sent the result of the owner of that phone
number.
If you have changed your phone, you gave it to your sister, but what they don't know is that the name of that person and the registration number of that person comes with the results. Okay. So those who say or one person who said it, come out, give us, let us see the result. And what we have found out that the person had done so far, investigation showed that he had either stolen the telephone number of a candidate, or he had manipulated. When the message is sent to you, you can now change it, put your own name, and then send it back to somebody. They are just jesters. There is nothing like that.
All right, based on the results for this year, which course would you say, or rather, which subject would you say was the most challenging for the candidates that wrote the exams? And then speak to us about, there was a reduction in the cost of the form this year.
Yes.
Did that affect anything?
No. Let me take the second one. What we did for this year, yes, in the last 5-6 years, we reduced the cost of the form from 5,000 to 3,500. because the government felt that since we are returning some money, then we can bring down. And that gave the people the impression that they are being overcharged. I'm not aware of anywhere in the world where they charge as low as 5,000 for the application. You don't even know that you are buying one application. Some people are saying, scrap JAM, let university take their own. You will take 4 or 5 applications and you will pay for each of them. Not the case where you pay for one form and you have access to over 200 institutions. So at the end of the day, they will realize that they don't know what they were talking about. Let me tell you, when you talk about which subject is the most difficult, challenging, it depends, because the students are not taking the same subject. It depends on the field you want to go to. English is the only thing common to them, and that constitutes just 25% of what they are doing. But it depends on the field. I think that looking at the results over the years, those who are doing mathematics, physics, chemistry, excluding biology, they seem to be performing better in terms of percentage. Whatever account for that, I do not know. Many people believe that maths and so on is either you know it or you don't know it. But in some written subjects where you have to exercise some, people appear not to be performing. And languages, they are performing, the standard is going down when it comes to language. Call it Hausa, Igbo, Arabic, Yoruba, any of the languages. I think something had to be done in trying to see what you can do. But as regards the disabled, you will see that this year, those we call physically handicapped or differently abled persons, there is an upsurge in their number because we did that deliberately. You know that this year we provided them with free form. That if you are starting from the blind and those who have 5 credits, because 5 credits, some people say somebody scored 300, celebrate them. We don't celebrate such people. That's premature celebration. We celebrate people at the end of the day, those after UTME, after post-UTME. And again, when we are talking about post-UTME, and why should people conduct post-UTME? JAMB has no problem at all with post-UTME. Just like my sister, the Vice Chancellor of FUTA, was saying, many universities, polytechnic and colleges of education, at least 50% of them today are no longer conducting post-UTME. They are conducting screening. Okay. But there is no university in the world that you will say will have no say in the quality of the students they take. So for us, we have no problem. It's it's not a vote of no confidence in us if they want to re-examine the candidates. You get the point.
So what about the validity of the result? Would you say it should be increased to more than 1 year?
I've told you that
that's also a call.
Results can be extended for more than 1 year if the examination is for that purpose. You extend achievement tests. People say, oh, in America, SAT. In America, do they sit for chemistry, biology, English, Yoruba? No, they sit for aptitude tests.
All right.
How to speak English, how to do... so those things that they want to bank are bankable tests. In Nigeria, they are asking us to, if we want to go that level, we will change the type of examination. You will change it to the type they give in America, which is cheaper for us to run, because all the students will take the same, not this one taking chemistry, this one taking geography, this one taking Yoruba. In America and other places you are talking of aptitude tests. But here, we are talking of subject, school-based subject that one is taking. And again, in all those places that you are talking about, they take the examination for 3-4 hours, and it has cost implication. Those who sit for SAT in Nigeria, they pay over 20,000, 30,000, 80,000 in the same Nigeria where we charge 3,000.
Okay, Prof. Because of time, we have to cut it short. So we apologize for that. Let's come to Chief Onoja. Before we went on break, we were talking about the challenges we have in the education system, in particular the issue of funding. So how do we begin to bring in individuals, private organizations into funding education in just maybe 1 minute because of our time?
That is already there. That's what that fund is doing. That is what UBEC is doing. That is what we intend the Senior Secondary Education Commission to do. All the problems about falling standard of education. The standard of education in Nigeria has not fallen. What has fallen is the standard of performance. And the standard of performance has fallen because the bodies that are supposed to be responsible for keeping up this performance are not functional. Senior secondary education is not functional in almost all the states, particularly in northern parts of the country. They're not functioning. Government is not funding education. Let us have the senior secondary education as the lifeline for, it's commission, it's Senior Secondary Education Commission, as the lifeline for quality education in Nigeria. If the certificates they obtain after senior secondary education, if they are valuable, not everybody would want to go to the university. People are satisfied. But the prof is talking about the number of people, 1 million, 2 million that have this. But 13,995 senior secondary, 34,995 senior secondary schools in this country. The number of people that come out for JAMB, it's not, those who are not registered for JAMB, there are more. Do they have certificates that are of any value to them? Let us empower Senior Secondary Education Commission to be like what UBEC is to basic education and what TED Fund is to tertiary institutions.
Valid points.
If the prof has anything to say, I will be happy to hear Prof about what that argument I have made.
Many thanks, Chief Onoja. We need to wrap up the conversation because of time. So, Professor Oladiji, your last words as we round off the conversation in 30 seconds.
Thank you. The last word, if I can say it here today, the issue that is being discussed, not particularly on this platform, but on 18 years entry level to the universities. I think if government is serious about that, they should look from the primary school, because now we have people finishing secondary school at 14, 15. So how do we bank them for 3 years before they come to the university, before we produce some other restless youths that may become monsters in the society? I think that government should look at before they talk about putting that as a law. And then on the UTME, I would think that effort to be made to ensure that people study hard. It's not rocket science. The syllabus has not changed as far as I know. So I don't think that there's anything the part of that is that policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Professor Oladiji. Let's now come back to you, sir, Professor Ishak. Yes. This issue of these 18 years.
18 years. Okay, I wanted to speak about what I'm being recruited by to talk about. But when you about this senior secondary, there is nothing bad on having a senior secondary school commission. But I understand that the government is presently having a review of what is being done. I think we should look at all the sides and see that there is a provision made for that level, because what those who are calling for it, what they are saying directly is that the states are not performing, because TED Fund belongs to the federal government. UBEC essentially belongs to the federal government. And what is being said now is a vote of no confidence in the states.
So on the 18 years, what's your take?
But on the 18 years, I'm surprised that people are so surprised about it. Unless you have committed an infraction, the law we have presently, the system, the policy requires you to be 18 before you go into the university. Before you go to primary, you must be 6 years. You spend 6 years in primary and 6 years in junior and senior, making 18. So the minimum is 18. But even if you tolerate 17, but what we are having now is 14, 15, and so on. So my own position is that we don't need any law. The law that we have presently prescribes 18. So anybody who graduates before 18 is the one who had cut corner, who had violated the rules. And that's why some of these students are having problems.
What about
because
the exceptions?
who is exception? No, what are we talking about? I mean, Yoruba man, gbogbo ọmọ ni jagun lójú ìyá ẹ̀. So everybody is a warrior when it comes to the mother's room. So how do you have this exception going to million? When you talk of the exception, there will be 1 in a million. But the exceptions we are having in Nigeria now, out of 200,000, we may have 150,000.
Because of time.
So the point I'm making is that these fake exceptions, they are exceptions. Exception will prove that.
Well, I think the private schools are actually to blame for the young age, because we have primary 1 to 5 and then SS2. Anyways, because of time, we'll have to wrap up the conversation at this point. Of course, so much to talk about, and it will be a continuous one. Many thanks, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, Registrar, CEO, Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, for joining us for the conversation. We appreciate you sincerely. And of course, Chief Silverstar Onoja ON, thank you so much for being our guest this morning. Professor Adenike Temidayo Oladiji, Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Technology, Akure, thank you so much for your thoughts on the conversation this morning. So that's Good Morning Nigeria. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ian Rajan.